and endless skies. Oh, I'm living that nomad life, city to city, feeling alive. From mountain tops to ocean drives, unchained I thrive, I thrive.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Nomads 50 Plus. My name is Chris Kalaboukis, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California at the moment. And today we have a very special guest. It's my mission, or my current mission, to interview 1,000 digital nomads and or midlife recalibrators. And today we have a very special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story, how you got to where you are, the famous, wonderfully famous star of the Unemployment Diaries, like the best podcast under the sun. It's unbelievable. You must subscribe right now. If you haven't subscribed already, press that subscribe button right now. It is the best podcast I've ever listened to. So tell us how you got to where you are.
Chris, can you just follow me around and do my introduction everywhere I go? Like before someone says, "What's your name?" I just go, "Hold, please." My name's Aisha. I'm the host of the Unemployment Diaries. Chris will forevermore be doing my introduction. So we'll have to separately record that. How did I get here? Well, it's kind of in the name. I got let go, and I had been planning.
No, somebody let you go?
I know. Craziness. We won't name names, but they did. They made that egregious mistake, or they did me a huge favor. So
They don't realize what power they unleashed when they did this.
I know. Watch me go back as a keynote speaker. We'll see. So I did get let go as part of a reorganization. And I started writing on Substack as, hey, why not? And I started the Unemployment Diaries thinking I was going to write about my experience and what I do and how I was managing this liminal space. And then I got bored of myself very quickly because I realized that there were so many other stories out there that I wanted to explore. And at the same time, people were reaching out to me. People were saying, yeah, me too. And it wasn't me too, I got let go. It was sometimes, I got let go. Sometimes it was, I'm thinking of leaving, but I don't know what to do next. Sometimes it's, I am in my job and I hate it. And that's just where I'm at. Or it has nothing to do with work. And it's just, I'm stuck. And I appreciate that you're doing something and unstucking yourself in some way. So I decided that this needed to be a platform and a conversation that is for people who want to overcome limiting beliefs, that are willing to experience change, that are in whatever phase they are at in their journey, that they're willing to face it and say, okay, here I am. What's blocking me? What is the belief? What is the system? What is the environment that is stopping me from living the life I want to live? Hence the Unemployment Diaries, hence the interviewing of as many people with as many different types of backgrounds and stories and moments of pivot as possible. And then we're bringing in experts too to talk about change, to talk about the economy, to talk about philosophy. It's basically a place where I get to have all the conversations that I want to have.
Wow, that's so cool. So tell us about what happened. Like as soon as you found out you were being let go, like how did you feel in that moment?
I remember I was sitting at a cafe where I would often remote work from. It was one of the remote work days that they graced upon us. And HR joined a call, which is how it often happens. I thought I was meeting with my manager, and I kind of was nervous and then very quickly irritated at the surprise, irritated at how unexpected it felt and how unfair it felt. That then very quickly dissipated. And then I was overwhelmed with a feeling of, oh my God, I'm free.
So you didn't go through any grief period at all. It was straight to, thank God this is over.
Skipped right over the grief. Skipped right over it, right into, oh my God, I'm free. And which is its own scary place to be, because then you have to figure out what's next. But I definitely didn't grieve the job. And it's not that it wasn't a great job. It's not that I didn't work with amazing people. It's not that I didn't appreciate my career. I've been told that I was decent at my career. And people enjoyed working. I
don't know. That's not, I'm not sure if that's it.
You can check in with my bosses.
That sounds kind of mid, right? Decent.
It's that like British influence of just downplaying,
Oh, if a British
self-deprecating.
person says decent, that's different from an American saying decent, right?
Yeah, well, I
It's
mean,
like,
as the product of a colony, it's we are influenced as Pakistanis, right?
yeah, yeah.
Although I'm not sure Pakistanis are particularly self-deprecating. Anyways, I digress. And then the next emotion, which was interesting that I wasn't expecting to experience, was I felt a little guilty. I felt guilty for feeling happy and for feeling
Wow.
excited. Like it's almost like you're at a funeral and you're smiling because you're awkward, but you realize you're smiling and other people are going to judge you because you're smiling. And I think it was like that, oh, I should be appreciative that I had a job. I shouldn't feel happy. People out there are struggling.
Hmm.
Why am I being so careless with, you know, this experience? But that was the reality. I felt liberated in a way from the life that I was too scared to leave.
Right. Well, and you think about it, that's exactly what ends up happening is that people are stuck in these roles, and it's because the money's good, and everything about it is okay, but it's draining you emotionally. It's not getting you what you want. It doesn't get you what you want out of life, but you just stay there because it's easy and it's comforting, right? And you kind of need this push to say, okay, I need to get on with the next spot of my life. In fact, I found that everybody I know who's been let go in that way always found something better, whether it was became an entrepreneur or they got a better job somewhere else or whatever. It was always a silver lining to this supposedly negative thing that happened to people. It's like every single person I know has found something better to do.
Yeah. That's been my experience too. I mean, also that's my general perspective on life is that when something happens, no matter how challenging, there is a gift in it somewhere. That gift might not always be perceived as positive, but the experience long term is. And at
Hmm.
least that's how I choose to look at it. And now, in having had conversations with people who have experienced extreme rupture, I mean, I'm thinking too, I had two conversations over the last couple of months, two of which are kind of medically initiated stories. One was a Marine veteran who was shot and paralyzed at 26. The
Jeez.
other, introduced by you, actually, Florence, is a stroke victim. Actually, yesterday was her 3-year stroke anniversary.
Wow.
And even, they who have, that is, I think we all agree, those are horrible, hard things to experience. No one is going to say, like, I choose that experience independently. And Patrick said something. He said, I absolutely would not change it. And it is the best thing that happened to me because it was necessary in that moment.
Mm.
Did I feel that way initially? Absolutely not. In that moment, I was angry. I was frustrated. That's not what he said. He has possibly the most optimistic mindset I've ever heard. But in retrospect, the answer is the same, is that that's what needed to happen. And I'm glad it did.
Yeah, and it turns out you notice that some people actually go through these types of things, and it sort of drives them into complete despair, right? They can go down the complete despair route, or they can go down, well, how can I work with this? How can I turn it into something more positive? And we all have that choice, right? When this sort of thing happens to us, and it's always outside of our choice. We can't do anything about it. It's something that we had no control over, but we have to decide how we're going to react to it, right? And if you react to it, you can react to it positively, or you can react to it negatively. You can just, go into your go and sit in your comfy chair and put a blanket over you, and then say, like, I'm just going to sit here for the rest of my life, just mulling it over and over again in your head. It's a choice to say, okay, that is something that helped drive me to a completely different place, which is probably a better place for me anyway.
Yeah. And that element of choice is the only element of agency that you have often in those moments. So if you let that go, then you're in a really tough spot because now you're waiting for the external world to give you a solution. And that's disempowering, essentially, because when you act from a place of, all right, here's where I'm at. Now, what do I do next? Or what do I think next? Sometimes you can't do anything. You know what? I think of Patrick. He was paralyzed. Could
Mm,
he go to the bathroom by himself? No.
mm,
But he could choose how to think about his recovery. And that process took 2 years for him to get to the point where, I'm spoiler alert on the episode, it's coming out next week, but, team captain of the US Invictus Games, keynote speaker, Wharton and Harvard grad, like, chronic underachiever, clearly. But it's amazing what mindset
What
can
have you
do.
done for me lately, right?
I know. I felt so lazy while recording that podcast. He's talking about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Meanwhile, I got winded climbing up like the Metro North stairs at Grand Central.
I know. Sometimes you talk to these amazing people, and you're like, "What am I doing with my life?" They're like
Right?
doing all these amazing things.
Right?
It's nuts. It's nuts. So and you mentioned something about pivoting a bit, though, right? Because when you first decided you want to do this, it says, "Oh, well, let's talk about unemployment." And then what made you decide not to, like, you got bored with your own stories, but were you thinking that you might get bored with other people's stories, or it's not a place that's like big enough, or like the niche wasn't right? I mean, how did you decide to change it up?
Well, I'll give you a shout out here in this part of the story as well. But it was a combination of not being in the right medium and getting a little bit of encouragement from the external world. So one
Hmm.
was I had started writing. So Substack, primarily a writing platform. I definitely need to and want to get back to writing. But what I had really always wanted to do, but never knew how, was to do some kind of speaking. I never thought of myself as a public speaker, as a keynote speaker. I'd never pursued a career that was public. I actually did internal communications, which is not the public facing version of
Hmm.
communications.
Oh yeah, very familiar.
Yeah, you've received the emails. Usually the emails no one
They're
wants,
really
right?
boring. I mean, I think if you were doing them, they'd be much more interesting. Because the ones I usually get from internal comms is like, oh my God, who wrote this?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. We're gonna leave that one where it is. My poor internal comms colleagues. We have an uphill battle. We don't get the flashy, sexy stuff like the marketing folks, right?
I know, right? It's
Um,
terrible.
But so the pivot was I wanted to do something to do with speaking. I wanted to also interact with people. Like for me, I didn't want to create another job for myself that I didn't like just because it was different, right? People think, "Oh, well, I'm going to start creating content on the internet and that's going to be my avenue to freedom." Yeah, great, but do you enjoy making content on the internet?
Hmm.
Are you happy being yourself on the internet? Because if not, you create a persona that you then have to keep up. You're creating a lifestyle that you now need to live, and are you ready to live it? So writing, yes, love it, but I wanted to explore speaking. I had been told in the past, like, why don't you do something with speaking? And I was like, great idea. And what? Like, what do I do with that? And you had
Just
actually
speak.
reached out. Yeah, just speak. I was like, all right, well, do I start creating content? But none of that was resonating. And you know,
Right.
during this time, I was also doing a fair bit of reflection. It's amazing how you get to know yourself when you have the space for it, or you make the space for it. And I always used my job and life as an excuse to let life be noisy and not tune into like, what do I want? Why do I want it? What direction am I moving in? And so now, in the absence of work that was taking out the 50 hours out of the week, I had time to reflect, to listen, to meditate, to read. And it's a luxury that I'm glad I took advantage of. And even to write. Writing really helps you clarify. And from there, you messaged me one day. You commented on a post, and then you messaged me, and I messaged you, and I sent you an article that I was writing. And you said, hey, this would be great as a podcast. These would be great as conversations.
Hmm.
And it kind of iterated from there and evolved. And then I just did it. Like, to I think what I said in our conversation, you were my first podcast guest. You said just do it. Nike sponsor, looking at you.
You don't have them as a sponsor yet?
Not
No,
not yet. Not yet.
not yet. Working on
Mindful
it.
of the
Still working on it.
language. They're coming. They just need to understand the multitude of meanings that just do it could have. It's not just sports, guys. Whole new audience for them. But yeah, that's how I started with the podcast. Was let's just move forward. Do I know what I'm doing? Absolutely not. Have I interviewed people before? No. Do I know where it's going to go? Mm-mm. But we're going to start, and then we're going to be consistent, and then we'll see.
That's exactly right. So have you set yourself, so that point that you made about having to do something over and over and over again for a really long period of time, I think people don't get that. I think they get this where I'm just going to start creating content. I'm going to be an overnight success. I'm going to go viral, and then boom, I'll be great. I'll be done, and everything will be great. I don't think they prepare themselves for the grind that is required to get everything out the door. right? And then continuously creating content. See, this is one of the problems about the content creator treadmill, right? Once you've started on that treadmill, you just have to keep going, because if you don't, you kind of disappear from the algorithms, right? They just say, well, okay, this person just stopped creating stuff, so we're not going to show any more of their stuff. And Subtext is a little better about that because things have a long shelf life. But eventually, it'll be like, oh, you're done, right? You like, no, you'll never be seen again. So it's something that people have to realize, is that if you do decide this is the way you want to go, then you have to continue. Like, you start and then you just don't stop. You just have to keep on doing it, and it has to be something that you love doing, because if you don't love doing it, then eventually you're going to get tired of it, and you're going to pivot, or you're going to do something else. And I've seen people pivoting on, like, I've been on Substack for about a year, and I've seen people pivoting to doing something completely different from what they did before, and it's like, you didn't give it long enough. You didn't give it the runway that it needed to get to the point where it was actually taking off. And I think we all have the same problem. We all think it's going to go faster than it actually does. And if it does, that's great. But we really have to make sure that we just sort of commit to it for like a year, 2 years, 3 years. And people are like, 3 years? It's going to take that long? I can't believe it. So I think the expectations have to be there.
Yeah, it's like the bamboo example. Is once you plant bamboo, it takes 4 years to take root. But then once it sprouts and goes above ground, you can't stop it. But 4 years is a long time. Easy to say, hard to do. And then something I will add to what you're saying, in addition to keep going, is when you fall off, which you invariably do, which I did. Like, I posted, I think, the first 2 episodes, and
You
then
didn't. You fell off?
I
No.
fell off for the week, right? I didn't post. I said I was going to do weekly, and I didn't stick to my
Oh my God.
my objective.
What
And,
happened?
well, what happened? I don't even remember. I don't remember what happened. You know what probably happened? I probably spent way too long editing, threw my laptop on the floor. That didn't help. And then I had to pick myself off the ground and do it again. Now, some version of that, like, life got in the way, whatever excuse you want to insert.
Yeah.
I didn't meet that objective of doing weekly. And in the past, usually what I would do is, I'm on a diet. I ate a cookie, might as well eat the whole sleeve. But
Sure.
in reality, like, does that serve you? Like, if you get a flat tire and you pull over on the side of the road, do you take a knife to the other 3?
You can, but it's not going to get you anywhere. You're just going to stay where you are.
You're going to stay stuck longer because most of us only have 1 spare.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the kind of the
Great
piece
analogy. I
would
love
add.
that.
Keep going, and keep going even after you mess up, and you will mess up. Like, you will skip a step, you'll put something out that you don't like if that's your version of messing up, or you'll fail at meeting your goal, and keep going anyways. Keep going imperfectly. Just keep moving.
Well, that's what I always say. It's like, when you're putting something out into the world, you just have to do it and then get feedback from it. Because when you look back, like when you go like years from now, when you look back on that first episode, you're gonna be like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I said, I can't believe I did this. The lighting's bad, whatever, my hair didn't look good, etc. You're gonna look back at it and go, wow, that was horrible. But now you're in a completely different place, and you needed to go through those steps to get to that spot. So, and those people who are sort of sitting back going, well, I want to wait until everything's perfect, I'm going to learn the next thing, blah, blah, blah. You'll get to the point where you're never going to, it'll be a year later and you're like, I haven't even done 1 episode of anything.
Yeah.
So, you got to get it out there first. And then once you get it out there, then you can decide, is this what I wanted to do? Can I change this? Can I pivot? You can always change your mind. See, that's the thing that I think a lot of people do, is that they agonize over decisions that are easily changeable, right? You can say, well, I'm going to think about this real hard. I'm going to spend a lot of time learning about it. And then you could have just done it and then said, well, this is not for me, or I'm going to pivot and do something else. But, until you actually do it, you're never going to really know if that is what you wanted to do.
Yeah. It's fear disguised as perfectionism. It's, I want to do a really good job. No, and I say this, speaking about myself, saying, it's because I want it to be good, because this is going to represent me, because this is going to set the tone for the direction that I'm moving in. No, Aisha, you're scared. You're scared about what other people think. You're scared that it's not going to be good enough, whatever that means. And as a result, you're not going to try. And then as a result, self-fulfilling prophecy, it's not good enough because it doesn't exist.
See, I find it hard to believe that you were ever in that position. because you're so poised, you're so, you know exactly what you're talking about. So you were never in a situation where you were uncertain about your abilities, right? It doesn't feel like it from the outside.
I'm uncertain right now. Like I
You seem
am,
to know what you're talking about, so.
what's that expression? Talk with confidence and no one will question you.
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe it's the comms background, but no, I'm 100% winging it. And look, it's informed winging it. I always wanted to speak, and I had an aptitude or was told that speaking would be good for me. I didn't pick up, you know, MMA, although I did do jujitsu for many years. I don't know, that's not a good example. I didn't decide to be a prima ballerina when I have two left feet and the
Right,
inability to follow, any kind of choreography.
right.
So there was some element of skill and or a decision of aptitude and a decision of interest. So like some kind of Venn diagram of intersection. And then it's not so much fake it until you make it. It's just believe in yourself until you produce the evidence to prove yourself right.
Right. And that happens over time. And the only way to do it is through actual practice, to get out there and actually do it. Otherwise, you're never going to find out.
You know what I learned? This is from a neuroscientist that I follow on Instagram. We always think that when we do something interesting, we should get dopamine right away. Like in the sense of when you're on social media, you get a little dopamine hit every time you see something novel or something interesting, right? Whereas real dopamine, like the good dopamine, the one you want to experience, appears about 10 minutes into making an effort.
Mm.
So you do need to that's why they say just start. Like
Hmm.
make the effort, and then 10 minutes in, you'll get the reward of that effort. And I think that really helped me. I was like, okay, I just need to get through the first 10 minutes. Because the just start thing, that's kind of scary too, because just start, what do you mean just start? Put out a video? Okay, well then I have to start recording the video. Well, then I need to start scripting the video. And like, how do I do? What
You're
do I do?
working backwards from the just start. Just start should just be, just turning on the camera and speaking your mind. That's how
Yeah,
it should be. And then everyone works backwards from it to go, I got to prepare myself for this. And then once you start thinking, I got to prepare myself for this, then you're not being spontaneous. You're not being authentic. You got to go through, like, what kind of persona am I going to put online? It's like, no, 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 none of that. We need you, the real authentic you, so that
yeah.
we can get through to what you actually want to talk about.
Yeah. And I remember when we got off our recording was actually it was the second recording, but it was the first episode I put out. I remember coming off and thinking, I suck at this. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, who
You
gave me
didn't.
this idea, Chris?
No,
Damn it.
you didn't suck at it at all. You,
Well,
you did. You did great.
and thank you. I appreciate that. And it's very easy when someone gives you a compliment to say, oh, well, they're just being nice.
Hmm.
Right? Like, and people being encouraging of, oh, good, that's really nice that you made that effort. And I'm not saying that that was you, but when your mind is convinced that it doesn't have the evidence yet to support the thing that you're doing, it's going to do all kinds of mental gymnastics to prove its point that
Oh yeah.
you're not where you're supposed to be. Because remember, the brain values homeostasis, security, and safety, not growth.
Yeah.
Because that's dangerous. When you
Yeah.
grow, you get hurt, you have to change environments, you have to do things that are inherently uncomfortable. And that's not what the brain wants for you, but it's what your soul wants. It's what your
Hmm.
heart wants. It's the thing that makes you think, from what I've understood from people on their deathbed and articles you've read of people looking at regrets, those are the things that they talk about. They talk about, oh, I should have done this. I should have
Mm.
tried. I should have made an effort. No one says, oh, it was a big mistake when I tried opening that business. Oh, it was a huge mistake when I decided to date that person and it didn't work out. And you think that those would be, big mistakes that they might be regretful over, but it's never that.
Yeah, and the fact is, I mean, we've talked about this before, is that we really don't make mistakes. We just make the best decision we make at the time based on the information we had. It's like if we knew the future, we could go, okay, this is going to be a mistake, but we don't. We make the decision because we thought it was going to be a good decision, right? And then only in retrospect do you look at it and go, that was a mistake. But you didn't have that information, so you can't really judge it as a mistake until you get to it.
Yeah.
So what was the most surprising thing? Like, so you've launched into this new life where you're the most amazing interviewer on the planet, and what was the most surprising thing that, like, after you got through the first couple of episodes, what was the most surprising thing you found?
Surprising and not
What
surprising
surprised you the most?
was that editing was hard. I think I
Mm,
knew that. I understood, having worked with a lot of videographers, editors in my day, like in my professional life, I understood and valued their work.
mhm,
But to try to do it yourself, whole other ball game. And I'm
mhm.
so grateful for the people along the way that I met through Substack, that I met through other places who helped me out. Mohammed Fadel is one who has his own podcast. You've been incredibly helpful, and there have been many others that have helped. But something that really surprised me about myself was that I was capable of being consistent.
Mm.
I have not historically, outside of, hyperfixations in life, like when I was 14, I wanted to be Shakira. So I bought a guitar, learned how to play the guitar, learned how to speak Spanish. Like,
Nice,
I was
nice. Do you have
immersed.
any recordings from that era? Because I'd love to hear them.
Whatever recording technology we had, 15 years ago. Yeah, sure. But her old school Shakira, I just want to put that out there.
Okay, yeah.
This is her like
Make
red
sure.
hair rocker days.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
much
so-
better.
Yeah. The consistency, I think I've been really proud of myself that it's not perfect. I still look at I was just editing before we got on this call, and I'm looking at it like, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done that better, but I'm doing it anyways. It's not my best work. I don't know when I'm going to get to the point where I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I want, but it's going out there, and I'm trying to learn from every video, learn from every guest. And it's been wonderful. Like, I really enjoy the process of speaking to people. And I think finding something that you really love and somehow making that part of your life, that's something that I hadn't experienced professionally before. And I'm super appreciative that I get the chance to do that.
Yeah, that's the one thing that spoiler alert, you'll never be happy with what you've done in the past.
Damn
There'll
it.
always be something. There'll always be something that you'll find that you'll say, oh my God, I can't believe I said that word, or I did this, or the lighting was that. That'll always be the case. So you just have to sort of paper over it and go, and again, we'll do better next time. And then when you talk about consistency, do you mean because of your own structure, or just in the content that you were creating? Because when we're working for others, we're inside other people's structures, and it's easier to stay consistent when it's like, okay, you got to be in this meeting at this time and do this. And then is that part of the reason why you sort of skipped a week or two, because you weren't managing your own schedules, or
Yeah.
somebody else wasn't managing your schedules anymore?
Yeah. The discipline, when there wasn't an external driving factor, just
Right.
wasn't there. And to be honest, it's still not there in the way that I would like it to be. But I'm practicing. I do think discipline. I kind of had a negative relationship probably with discipline. Like, I saw it as, it's at school and you have to do this many hours, and then you have to provide these reports, and that the outcome was validation from your teacher or from your classmate or from your parents, right? Or discipline, like, you have to do this. No, you get to do this. So I'm trying to train myself into, no, I have the opportunity to do this, and it requires discipline. It requires writing when you don't want to write, editing when you don't want to edit, thinking creatively, and putting all of those resources that you used to put into somebody else's company into yourself, again, without the proof that it's quote unquote worth it. There's no paycheck coming in yet.
Yeah.
There's no,
just waiting for that big Nike deal to happen, and then boom.
Exactly.
You'll be set.
Yeah, then we will see. Then we'll come back to this recording and play it. But I think that balance of wanting the discipline, working towards the discipline, and being compassionate with yourself when you're struggling with it, but not giving up. You don't let yourself off the hook. Compassion doesn't mean, oh, it's fine, you don't have to do it. It's all right, you didn't do it. What's next? What conditions need to change for you to be able to now do it? Like, do you need rest, or do you need a different environment, or do you need a little bit of inspiration so that you can get out of the rut that you're in creatively? Whatever it is, find it. It's there somewhere. You just have to give yourself permission to figure it out, but not let yourself off the hook.
Yeah. So what do you personally do to keep yourself in line, to keep yourself disciplined?
So I really love my morning routine. Like, everything else can fall apart during the day, but I need to journal in the morning. write out my thoughts. I try to practice gratitude. Gratitude in the form of appreciation, gratitude in the form of thinking of the things that I have, the things that I want in present tense. I pray and I meditate and kind of center myself with knowing that it's not all on me. I think that's been incredibly useful. I really use the time of during Ramadan, which is the holy month of fasting for Muslims, to center myself. And this was the first time that I wasn't working also during Ramadan, which meant that I could really take advantage of the stillness. You know, you're not eating, you're not going out, you're not socializing as much, and you really have a lot of time to reflect. And in the absence of all of that stimulation in life, a lot of things do come to you. So I'd say meditation, journaling, and I check in with my mom a lot. You know, it's interesting. It's not something that I even realized I was doing consistently until you asked the question. But she really grounds me every day. She lives in Pakistan, so she's not nearby, and I'm here in New York. But she really grounds me in what's important, and that the North Star is important, but enjoying the moment is so important. Because if you can't be present, life just kind of passes you by. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle also in a corporate environment if they don't really enjoy their job, is that it feels like the days just run into each other and there's no novelty, there's no stimulus, because it's very difficult to be present when you're not finding things to appreciate. So that's not to say that you can't appreciate things in the moment while you have a job that you don't like, but it can be harder. So having that space for me to come back to like appreciation has given me some fuel to move forward when things get tough, when you're working for yourself without a paycheck.
So do you find that now that you're in like outside of the corporate life, would you ever want to go back to it?
You know, I never want to say never. There might be an opportunity that would come up that would make sense, as long as I can do things that I enjoy doing. What I won't do again is take a job that isn't giving me something unless I have the choice. Now, you have to keep in mind that sometimes life circumstances provide constraints, financial constraints, social constraints, like whatever it is, and you need to take the job that's available. But given the choice, I would not just take the job because it's safe and guarantees a paycheck and guarantees, you know, some social status that you're fine. Like, my daughter's okay, my wife's okay, my friend's okay, she has a job, she's stable. Yeah, is she fine though? Like, check in on your friends that are fine. Like, what does fine mean? So yeah, I think I would try to avoid just being fine.
Right. So speaking of your friends and family, thanks for bringing that up. When you told them that you were doing this, what did they say? Were they like, "Oh my God, she's off her rocker. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She should go back and get a job"? Like, what was their reaction to it?
They were super supportive, and
Nice.
And I think it took a little while for a couple of people to come around to the idea that I might be without an income for a little while, or you know, you never know. It could be a long while. And the risk involved, right? So I remember my mother, as supportive as she is, just being like, "Oh, well, do you want to get a job maybe at the same time? You know, that could be good. That way you have the stability." And it's coming from a great place, and lots of people do that. But in my case, I had a little bit of flexibility, where I was like, "All right, I'm going to give myself the year. After that, we'll reassess." Right?
Sure.
Friends in general, super supportive. Like, they were happy to see me doing something, because I've been talking a big game about wanting to leave corporate for a long time. No action being taken. And I think that's why the university...
comfortable. The money's coming in. Everything's great. You know, I know it's some of my coworkers are horrible and I can't stand them, but you know, and the work might not be fulfilling, but you know, there's the paychecks coming in and everything is just okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes more than okay. That's the hard part. Like, I wrote this in an article. There's like the golden handcuffs, which is, you know, your lifestyle inflates and then you're stuck with, you know, needing that salary to maintain your lifestyle. But then there's also good enough handcuffs, which is that things aren't bad. It's like a relationship with someone who is a good person, and doesn't do anything inherently horrible, but that you're just not very in love with. And then you have to say, am I okay doing this for the rest of my life? Like,
Right.
am I okay committing to this person for the rest of my life? And the answer when it came to work was no, not okay with where I'm at. So there's going to be a risk involved. The risk could be there's going to be a huge gap on my resume. If I do decide to go back,
What
I'll
are you
have to
talking about? You're
explain
going to
it.
be host of the Unemployment Diaries. It's going to be right there in your resume. It's going to fill up your gap. You're not going to be you're not just sitting on the beach drinking tequilas. You're working hard.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's a very good point, because that's a great example of how like my mentality around work still, even though it's been a few months now, it's been, oh gosh, I got let go back in July. It's coming up on a year.
Wow.
Time flies.
Went faster than you thought.
But it's amazing how beliefs stick and like how sticky they are. And that's part of why I really wanted to work on this podcast and why we focus so much on beliefs and mindset and systems. It's those, inconspicuous things that you don't even realize are driving the way you think and your concerns. And, something my dad always used to say, he was a neuroscientist and neurosurgeon, and he used to talk a lot about the role of emotion and rationality. And he would say emotion always precedes logic. So we think that we walk into a room and then we just start making decisions because we're super logical and rational. Right? And usually the most mind-oriented people, which I think a lot of people here on Substack are, a lot of people at work are, you're sharp. Your brain's working fast and great. That's awesome. But then you trick yourself into logicking your way into everything, when in fact what happened is your body, your intuition picked up on things that created an emotion, and then you furnished it with logic. So it's very easy to logic your way into doing almost anything, which is why taking a beat to check in with yourself, and I think when you work for yourself, doing it as many times a day as possible is so important. Like, you got to check in with this little hamster wheel up here that is so powerful, but it can't totally be in charge because it can take you in some interesting directions.
Oh yeah. Well, some of those directions are very interesting, the like rabbit holes. But then you realize 2 hours later that, oh my God, what have I been doing? What have I been researching? Is this helping me out, or am I just using this to distract myself from something else that I don't want to do?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know what your time's like. I know it's the top of the hour. So can we keep going, or?
I'm good for a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to ask you about where you're going next. It's like, what are you going to do next? So it's been, like you said, it's been almost a year. Like, when did you launch this? Like a couple months ago?
The podcast itself, 2-3 months ago.
So 2-3 months ago. So you're giving it yourself 2-3 months from the launch of the podcast, or when you were let go?
It's a good question. I would like to extend this timeline. I'm going to give myself a year from the time the podcast launched. We're making that decision right now. I'll inform my husband
February.
later.
So unilaterally, I love it. So between now and next February, like, so this is one of the interesting things I find about this particular type of thing when you're content creating. It seems really being in the present, right? It's hard to plan, because usually when it's a corporate, or even if it's a small business, a startup, you have a plan. You say, okay, in a year, I'm going to be here. In 2 years, I'm going to be here. 5 years, I'm going to be here. So you plan something, right? But I find that, at least for me, that it's hard for me to plan where I'm going to be, because some people are like, oh, I want to make sure I have 1,000 subscribers by this date. I'm like, I have no idea when I'm going to get to that point. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I mean, I know what I'm kind of doing next, but I don't have any like extended plans for the future. Do you have any extended plans for the future? Or are you kind of like, are you in the same sort of let's keep going and see what happens mode?
I am very much so I've been very planful my whole life. I did all the good girl things. I did the degree. I got married. I did another degree. I had the jobs. Did your
parents pat you on the head and go, way to go, way to go. This is exactly what we wanted.
Society pats you on the head, right? They tell you you're doing a good job, and it's not malicious most of the time. When your friends and your family tell you, hey, that's great, you got that promotion, they mean it. Yeah, they're not lying.
Mhm.
And when your boss tells you you're doing a good job, that's good. Like,
Mhm.
it's nice to get that validation. But again, like checking in with yourself, like, who am I doing what for?
Right.
So to answer your question, no, I'm not going in with much of a plan. I'm going in with a lot of trust, a lot of faith that opportunities will present themselves. The plan, very loosely, is to be consistent and to continue to evolve with every episode. So that's kind
Mhm.
of weekly at this point. To do more in person. I did my first in person, so that was the Marine veteran
Oh,
Patrick,
wow.
and that episode's going to come
Fantastic.
out next week. In person is such a fun experience, by the way.
But logistically, it must be difficult to do in person.
It's so you're more limited in who you can speak to, right? Because unless you have the budget to fly people out, which I don't right now,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to speak to Mohammed, who is in Dubai, or Jacob, who is in Miami, or you, who's, in Silicon Valley. So, but it's been a lot of fun, and I have some exciting guests coming. So that's been great. I'm learning more about editing, more about visual storytelling. So I'm like expanding my skills. And I want to, this is unrelated, but related to the podcast, is that I realized I don't have a hobby anymore. And there's a connection. I'm not going off on a tangent here. It's so important to do things that are creative and that are just for you and that expand the way that you think.
Mhm.
And I used to have a few hobbies, but then ever since getting let go, just because the way life was, all I'm doing right now is the podcast. And
Right.
I need that creative element to keep my eyes open, to keep my mind fresh, to do something that is like just for me. So that's my way of walking the talk of all these things that I'm learning from people about doing things when you're not ready, doing things scared, being willing to face the way you think about things, being willing to be really objective with your environment, with what serves you, with what doesn't serve you, and being willing to think outside of your box, because we're all in little boxes. We're all part of algorithms. We're all being shaped, whether we like it or not. And no matter how free thinking we are being influenced. And it's
Mhm.
our job to find counter evidence to everything we think we know.
Yeah.
Hobbies are good for that.
Yeah. So you haven't gotten to the point yet where the podcast feels like work? You're still having fun with it?
I'm having fun with it, I will say. Again, to my point, I'm like half joking about having thrown my laptop on the floor. There was one episode I was editing, and I know you told me not to edit too much, but I can't help myself. I was like going cross-eyed, trying to fix this and like connect the story. But you know what? At the end of the day, it was still worth it. Like, I don't
Mhm.
look back on that and think like, oh, what a waste of time. No, I'm happy that I made the effort. Is the episode perfect as a result? No, definitely not. But I'm happy. I'm like proud that I put the time in because I learned something from that. So I'm focusing a lot more on like, what am I learning than on outcomes, which I have to check myself on all the time because every now and then, you check your follower count, and you check your engagement, and you look
Mhm.
at your stats. And
Yeah.
it's important, and it's
What,
good
you don't do it every hour on the hour like I do?
I try not
I'm
to.
kidding.
I'm sure you don't do that.
I can't look at it all the time because it would drive me crazy, right?
Yeah.
It would drive me crazy.
It's also just not a very good metric of the holistic aspect of what you're accomplishing. Like,
Yeah.
it's just one piece. It's one element of feedback. And if you don't give yourself other ways to get feedback, you're only looking at that, it's really reductive.
Yeah. No, I find it's interesting because when I have my other podcast, Think Future, which I've got to 1,100 something episodes, and
Wow.
people ask me, it's like, why are you doing this? And I said, I just like interviewing and talking to interesting people who have interesting things to say. It's like what it's like it's like a job. Do you make money off advertising? And I'm like, no. I just and every time I talk to anybody, I always learn something. I always learn something new, and it's like another thing that sort of gets lodged in my brain, and then probably percolates for a while, and then eventually comes out as something else, or is mashed up with a few other things. But just talking to people and getting different perspectives, it's just phenomenal. It's like the best thing you can do, and I just love doing that. So it's fun at the same time.
It's really fun. And, it's important too. I think it's important for, again, talking about the echo chambers that I referenced earlier that we all operate in. It's so important to broaden your perspective by hearing someone else's experience. And, some of the advice that I've heard from my podcast guests, is not totally novel. It's not the
Mm.
first time someone said, just do it. It's not the first time I've heard or read a book where someone said, the worst things that have happened to you are going to be the best things that have happened to you. But it lands really differently when you're having that conversation. And I think that's the power of podcasts in general, is that it brings people to the media forefront in a way that you wouldn't see in other more, commercialized, although now podcasts are super commercialized as well.
Tell me about it.
But, the fact that we can all start a podcast and listen to a variety of podcasts means we can listen to a variety of perspectives. Not all of them good, not all of them helpful, but you have access to information and to perspectives that you otherwise wouldn't. And that's why I'm so passionate about having different types of people on the podcast, from, someone who's a digital nomad who lives on a yacht, who started Linda, who started her own business before digital nomads were even a thing, and was out there, with cellular, trying to run her business that she decided to start when she was done being an executive in tech, to, Patrick, who's a Marine, to Jacob, who lives out in Miami and runs his own consulting business, to my friend who was a UN Accelerator Lab, head of that department, left it to become a spiritual life coach. All of these lessons are so different, and every story resonates a little bit differently based on where you're at in your own journey. So I'm not entirely sure where I'm at in my journey. So I'm trying to talk to as many people as possible. One of my guests said, am I the right person to talk to? Because I'm still figuring it out. And I'm like, you're exactly the right person to talk to.
Yeah.
Because you're figuring it out. And if you're willing to talk about what got you to the place where you're even trying to figure it out, that is incredibly worthwhile, and that is going to resonate with someone, and in a way that the big success story doesn't.
So are you going to change the name of the Unemployment Diaries because you're not just talking about people who are unemployed?
Right now, I don't think so, because to me, it's less about work and it's more about becoming unemployed from beliefs and systems and environments that are holding you back. So I think we're all in a process of unemployment. So maybe it's a rebrand of what unemployment means.
I did the same for mine. It's a rebrand of what it meant.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the comms in me.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is that you realize as you're going through your journey, that there's other things that you want to explore that are interesting and helpful to other people. I mean, I think that's the thing that ended up happening, is that not everybody is a digital nomad, but there's a lot of people who have either something happened to them in midlife, or there's somebody is unhappy, kind of like the same kind of stuff you're talking about, and they're making changes and they want to figure out how to make these changes. And sometimes they're at the beginning of the stage, sometimes in the middle, sometimes they're afterwards. And just talking to people who went through those transitions and how they went through those transitions can help other people go through the same transitions, like especially if they have similar circumstances where they've been let go, and maybe they're in their 50s or 60s and they can't find work anymore, and what are they going to do with the rest of their lives, right? And especially with longevity driving us to, who knows, we'll probably both live to 100, 120, and
Inshallah.
It's like, if that's the case, can you imagine? Like, I'm not sure how old you are. You probably look like you're 25 or something like that.
Let's go with that. Yeah, I like that.
So you're going to live another, 75 to 100 years. So you got to think, what am I going to do with the rest of my 75 years, right? I mean, and it's just such a shift, because it used to be kind of like once you got to your 60s, it's like, okay, I'm ready to slow down and do less. And we're all going, no, I want to rev it up and do more, because I'll have more time. I won't be working, spending 8 hours of my day doing some corporate gig. I'll be able to do a lot more in the time that I'm doing, and I'm going to do stuff I love, stuff that I really want to do, as opposed to the stuff that I have to do.
Exactly. And it's interesting that you bring up that point about, the 60-year-old perspective, because now I've had two separate guests that have a practice where they check in on themselves, either through journaling or just a check-in, from the perspective of their 80 or 90-year-old self. Why? Because that's the perspective that ultimately matters. Like, 80 or 90-year-old Aisha doesn't really care if tomorrow's episode gets 10 views or 10,000 views. But she probably cares that I made the effort and showed up and posted the video, because that's part of the consistency. That's part of the values and the goals. And ultimately, we're doing for others. And I've heard this from actually one of my guests. They've been the greatest source of information and of learning for me.
Oh, they're amazing. I love all of everybody I've spoken to is just incredible person.
Right? It sounds corny, but I really feel like I'm gathering friends out here. But she said that we often give to the world that which we need ourselves. And I feel like I need these conversations. I need to hear all these different phases where people are at, how they're approaching growth, how they're willing to confront change, how they're willing to confront themselves. And as I'm learning for them, I'm sharing with others and creating an impact that I'm happy with. Not to say that writing emails for companies expressing, the return to work policy wasn't meaningful, and I appreciate those jobs, but there is a difference in choosing your path.
Right. Well, some people actually love that kind of stuff, and that's the other thing that we have to make sure we talk about is that there's people who this type of life is not for. Right? They prefer like they just cannot be entrepreneurs. I mean, I know people who are like that, and they would never leave corporate work, and they would always bounce to another corporate job because they just can't do the full set of tasks that you need to do when you're an entrepreneur. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to do everything. Yes. Having said that, I think everybody at some point in their life should try it, just so that they can get a sense of what it's like. And when you have an unemployment or you have something change in your life, that's the best time to give it a shot, right? Especially if you have a runway. Like if you have a year's runway, 2 years runway, or whatever, that's the best time to go, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot, see if I like it, try it for at least a year. And then during that period of time, you'll know this is for me or this is not for me, and I have to go back. And sometimes even less than a year, you should know pretty soon that if this is something that uplifts you and excites you and makes you want to get up in the morning and do more of it, then this is something that you'll want to do. And if you don't, then you can always go back and get something.
Yeah, leveraging change is so important rather than just letting it wash over you. And even leveraging challenge. Like there's a lesson in everything. Like it's one of those pieces of advice that almost sound trite and overused, but it's there because it's true. Mm-hmm. Like that challenge, there's something in it for you. There's something for you to learn. It might be something for you to say, as you said, hey, nope, this is not for me. But then you check the box, you don't ruminate over it, and you can move forward with something else.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that there's no such thing as failure, really. It's a lesson, right? You succeeded or you learned. You learned that that's not what you want to do, or that's not the right thing to do. So you try something else, and then you try something else. And we just have to keep that open mindset that, this is not the end of me because that I tried that thing and it didn't work. I can always try something else, or I can try something else. And then eventually you'll pivot to the point where you've got what you want to do and you go down that path, and it's the path that uplifts you.
And I'm such a firm believer in you are where you're supposed to be. Because sometimes I'm doing this and I'm like, oh, why didn't I start sooner? Well, you didn't start sooner because you didn't start sooner. Because whatever reason, it could be, it depends how you approach this, but in my mind, I'm 25, so let's. That's
right.
Right. I can't do the math now.
I don't know. I mean, you're like half the age of people I typically interview, so.
Well, so let's just say me 10 years ago wouldn't have been able to handle where I'm at now. Like even given the same opportunity.
You were 15. Come on.
Yes, exactly. I was 15 10 years ago. No, so let's say me at 25 wouldn't have been able to handle this uncertainty, wouldn't have been able to handle the conversations, wouldn't have had the maturity to deal with all the kind of emotional uncertainty that comes with this. Mm-hmm. And so therefore I had to be at this age right now to handle it. And there's probably other things that I'm not equipped for, and hopefully I'll become equipped for. So, I remember when I started jujitsu, I started at, I think I was 30. And I remember thinking, oh, why didn't I start when I was 16? Well, you know what? Based on my personality, now that I think, if I had started at 16, I probably would have become obsessed with it. I would have damaged my body, and I would have gone down a path of competitive, performance that could have been very dangerous for me. And it wasn't my path. So good that I didn't start earlier. It's good that I started when I started, and it's good that I stopped when I stopped. And now I get to focus on this.
So now you're inspiring me to start snowboarding. Thanks for that.
Oh, it's so much fun. Do it.
Well, at my age, come on.
Just wear a helmet. Wear a helmet.
Wear a helmet and many pads, and just make sure.
Bubble
Or
wrap.
or even skateboarding. Skateboarding sounds like fun, right?
Hey,
Have you skateboarded?
my brother, he's a fair bit older than me. He's 60,
Wow.
and my brother, he used to skateboard when lives out in LA. He lives that California life. He
Mhm.
used to skateboard when he was younger, but he picked it back up now.
Wow.
And he's out there hanging with all those kids in the skate park. So
Nice. Good for him.
if you want to, it's out there. You live in
I don't know
California
if,
too.
I don't know if my wife will let me do that, but we'll give it a shot. It might happen. Who knows?
You never know.
So I know we got. Let's do 5 more minutes. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
So I wanted to ask you about the dry fasting thing. So tell me more about
Oh.
that. I know this has nothing to do with anything, but since I have you,
Yeah. So
because
I mentioned
I'm really interested in intermittent fasting and autophagy and stuff like that. And you said something very interesting about how dry fasting increases, like gets you to autophagy sooner. And I'd like to expand upon that, because now we have this is the medical section of our podcast, where we talk about things that have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, disclaimer. The disclaimer I give when I like to provide unsolicited medical advice to my friends is my father was a doctor.
Right.
If that provides solace to anyone else. But I have, as a result of my own gut issues, dug pretty deep into all things holistic healing and traditional and non-traditional medicine. We were a medical household, but I have always explored Eastern traditions as well. And as I mentioned earlier, was fasting for the month of Ramadan, which is a dry fast, meaning you don't drink any water from dawn to dusk. Now, the initial reaction to that is usually, isn't that dangerous? In the absence of water, don't we die?
Yeah.
Turns out, over 1 billion Muslims all over the world do not, in fact, die. And they've done research to see that in the absence of water, the process of autophagy, which is essentially the cleaning out of your cells, is accelerated.
Great word. That one is autophagy.
I know.
That word.
We're doing autophagy of beliefs on the Unemployment Diaries. I'm going to start weaving that in.
Ooh, nice. Yes, do it.
Anyways, so the biological process of autophagy is accelerated by up to 200% in the absence of water. So we go through processes of autophagy naturally in life, right? Like old cells get cleaned out and then new cells develop. And that's happening all the time. When you fast, it increases. When you dry fast, it increases even more. So while dry fasting is less studied than typical intermittent fasting, which is, either a 16-8 split or a 4-20 split. So 1 meal a day, like they all have different labels, but almost every traditional society in the world, Muslim and non-Muslim, has some version of fasting.
Everyone does.
Everyone does. Every religion, every culture, because they knew something that now science is catching up with, is that restricting caloric intake for periods of time is beneficial mentally, spiritually, if you believe that, and physically. So I do notice a huge difference fasting for Ramadan. It is not as difficult as you think or as it seems. You feel thirsty, but you are actually doing fine. It's just your brain is sending these signals. Again, to my earlier point about how powerful the brain is, it's used to things. It says, oh no, there's no water. You need to give me water right away. And while you do need to be mindful of your output and like how much you're exercising and your exposure to heat and all of those things, you do notice the difference in your body, in how clear-headed you are. And me as someone who's had gut issues for about 20 years, every time I fast, my gut does so much better. And then it's usually when I overdo it after Ramadan that it starts to go back to it being a little problematic. So sometimes giving it a break, you'll notice that difference very quickly.
So let's say, tell me about the fast. So is it an 18-6 more or less? Is like you go till dusk and then you don't have any liquids at all whatsoever the entire day?
So it's dawn till dusk, which it follows the lunar calendar, so it changes. So doing it in the summer means much longer days than in the winter. And there are parts of the world where, there's almost no night.
Right.
So they adjust differently, and I think they follow than another country, because the idea is not to create undue hardship. It's to do what's doable. And by the way, since, no one should take my medical advice, but there are always exceptions for this. So people who are If you are older and you are incapable, if you are young and you are incapable, if you are ill and incapable, if you are traveling, if you are pregnant, like there are many reasons not to do this. But you fast from dawn. So in the morning, you drink water, you eat food, you try to be as nourished as possible. You
before the sun comes up.
Before the sun comes up, hydrate. And then, nope, no food, no water, no smoking, no intercourse during the day until dusk. The other thing, and I think this is maybe less known outside of the Muslim community, is that you are supposed to be mindful of all of your intake, what content you're consuming, what thoughts you're thinking. So this is really where you're trying to regulate yourself. So we know in neuroscience that like neurons that fire together, wire together, fire together. Meaning if you constantly get angry when someone cuts you off in traffic, you are more likely to get angry the next time someone cuts you off in traffic. So when you interrupt that pattern, you interrupt that connection, and you're less likely to get angry the next time. So that's another thing that you're doing during the day is you're trying to abstain from negative, harmful emotions like anger and like frustration, and increase your tolerance and your patience.
So stay off of Twitter, basically, is what you're saying. Like, don't go on Twitter because
that would be my recommendations. Like the rage bait is extra baity when you're fasting, and there's nothing to give you dopamine.
That's right.
Food's not giving you dopamine. Activities aren't. You're not out socializing with your friends. But then at the end of the day, you make sure to hydrate appropriately. Many cultures open their fast with dates, which is full of minerals and provide you with just enough glucose to kind of up your levels again. Then you typically go and you try. Every culture does it differently, but you typically take a break to go pray. It takes 5 minutes, and then you have a meal. And hydrate, and then you can do whatever you want.
So we're going to spin off the intermittent dry fasting podcast. So we can do a completely new show just on that. And talking to people who've done it.
Look, I don't think I appreciated it enough when I was younger, because you see it as, this religious requirement. You see it as it's difficult, like especially growing up in America in a non-Muslim environment. It was different to what all my friends were doing at the French school. They weren't fasting except for maybe one other kid. And you're like, ma'am, can I please leave so I can go eat my dates? And then they would sometimes say yes, and they'd sometimes say, nope, you can wait until everyone is done. Which now in retrospect, I feel like that was maybe a little unkind.
It's not nice.
But different times back then.
Right.
Not so woke. But now I really appreciate the moment of stillness and the dedicated month. When you think about it, it's a long time. And when you think about it, it's not a long time, to be bringing your attention inward. So less focus on everyone else and what's happening and what you're doing and how you're doing it. Less about what you want and more about inside, how you feel, being mindful of your thoughts. And it's a beautiful month.
That sounds like a useful practice for anyone. That's great. So, okay, we're done. If someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
So the Unemployment Diaries podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, but you can also find me at the Unemployment Diaries podcast on Instagram and here on Substack.
Awesome. Well, everybody subscribe. It's the best thing ever. And listen to everything she says because she rocks.
Chris, I'm taking you with me everywhere I go. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was great.
You. Yeah, and I think you're the one who has to finish it because it's not on my end.
Right. Okay. Ending this then. Bye.
Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.
Oh, I'm living that nomad life, city to city, feeling alive. From mountain tops to ocean drives, unchained, I thrive, I thrive. Oh, I thrive.